Now the question, Mr. Diallo, I will direct to you because you said your governments are doing something, but what are the actions that have been put in place by international organizations and developed countries that you can tell us about that ensure transparency in the utilization of these funds that are provided to mitigate climate change?
Well, what I can say is, we are in countries that have all adopted decentralization as a form of government. And environment is one of those issues that have been transferred, where on paper there's some transfer of resources and capacity to local governments. Our central government also have decentralized offices, deconcentrated offices in the various regions. So on paper, they are supposed to work with the municipalities, with the regional governments to implement a whole variety of projects in health, in education, also in environment. But as I said, I insist on saying on paper, if we follow these procedures properly and the required resources are put at the responsibility of the local governments, then yes, things can work and local governments can have a very good knowledge and very good oversight and ensure transparency of the utilization of those resources. But unfortunately, that is not the case. It is not the case because if you look at the amounts of money that are transferred annually from central governments to local governments, which varies from one country to another, these resources are insufficient to be able to carry out sustainable investments. So the small investments that are being carried out, if you take out the money that is sent to run these offices for the operational costs for these offices, there's not a lot of money left for investments. In Burkina, for instance, of our national budget is 4% of our national budget that is transferred to local governments. We have a government that was anticipating to get to 15%, but that never happened. And that 4% is for all sectors, for meaning education, health, agriculture, everything. It's 4% that is transferred. It's grossly insufficient. When it comes to international organizations, a lot of them work with international agencies that have, some of them have offices in our region. I can speak of FAO, for instance, or WFP, and a lot of other international organizations. But they run their own country projects, they run their own country programs. Sometimes, yes, they involve local authorities. We do, but our participation in those ones are very minimal. For instance, they do not come to us to ask us, what are your plans? We all have development plans. We all have our own our development agenda. We're not just running helter-skelter. But I've not seen many of them come to us and tell us, listen, let's sit down. These are the resources that we're able to mobilize internationally. And what do you think are your priorities? Let's together work on drawing up an action plan. Those resources will never be sufficient, but at least those are the monies that are coming. If we're able to work closely with them in investing in those priority areas, I'm sure by now we would have had a much bigger impact. In some cases, you see them coming. The next thing you hear is this organization has rented a big office in your city. You see them bringing their very nice jeeps. They start running, they recruit staff without involving anybody locally there. And then one day, because there's a program or there's a ceremony, then they will write to you, oh, we have this program. Personally, I've refused to attend to a lot of these programs because I'm like, well, listen, I'm not just here to come and sit at ceremonies or legitimize whatever you do. If you're not going to involve me initially for us to sit together and see where this money goes, no matter where the money comes from. If the money is supposed to be invested in Dori, then it's for the people of Dori. And I'm not a rebel. I'm an elected mayor. I have a responsibility. Let's sit together. But none of them does that. I've been a mayor for 4 years. None of them came to us and tell us, listen, well, we want to invest in climate change. We want to invest in environment. Let's together draw a plan, and we can even help them to go and mobilize resources, and we can even put some of our money. What we are doing, I can give you an example when it comes to access to water. What we have done over the past 4 years, access to rural, the percentage of people access to water in rural areas in Dori has gone from 65 to 78% in 4 years, and more than 80% of these investments from our own money. So we are also putting our money there. But yeah, if monies come together and programs come together, then I'm sure by now we would have much more impact. But that's not really what is happening. Not only from the local from the central government, but also from international organizations. And it's sadly, it's a sad point to make.